The George Zimmerman murder trial continued this morning. He is charged in the shooting of teenager Trayvon Martin. The judge will hear arguments about a criminal justice course Zimmerman took in college. The prosecution says it shows Zimmerman had knowledge of the law. Yesterday, a medical examiner testified Zimmerman's injuries from his fight with Martin appeared minor. CBS News legal analyst Jack Ford is with us. Jack, good morning.
Good morning.
So what do you make of the medical examiner's testimony?
Medical examiner was one of the stronger witnesses for the prosecution so far. And it goes back to what we talked about before. The prosecution certainly has a winnable case, but they also certainly have a tough case here because so many of their witnesses have given stuff for the prosecution, but also given something to the defense. Medical examiner gets on the stand and says, as far as I'm concerned, these injuries that George Zimmerman had, not significant. Just not the types of injuries you would have expected to see given what his testimony has been, or his version of things. Now, as we've seen with other witnesses, the defense did get her to soften up that testimony a little bit by saying, okay, well, it could be possible that maybe these injuries were a consequence of that. But she has been one of the stronger witnesses for the prosecution so far. We
also heard from the lead investigator. How strong do you think that testimony was?
That was really interesting. Here's why. Your lead investigator is usually the one you count on to carry the ball. He's going to fill in all the blanks, give you the big picture here. And this investigator was very honest in his testimony. He did some very good things for the prosecution. He was the one who questioned George Zimmerman. Why did you get out of the car when the dispatcher said you didn't have to? What was so sinister about him just walking there? So that was good. But he also gave some things for the defense when he said, for instance, that George Zimmerman's injuries could indeed be consistent with his story. And there was an interesting twist about his testimony. The last thing he was asked on Monday by the defense, well, did you find George Zimmerman to be credible? And he said, yes, I did. Basically, here's the lead investigator saying, I kind of believe him. Now, the interesting thing about that is usually a fact witness is not allowed to give an opinion about somebody else's truthfulness. But it got out there. Overnight, clearly the prosecution thought better about it, and the next morning yesterday they went in and said to the judge, no, this doesn't belong here. You should strike this. The judge did, but it raises that issue about how do you unring the bell? The jury heard it. They're told to disregard it, but it's out there.
How are you following this trial?
I've been watching. A lot of it on television. Yeah. There's some places that are giving instant sort of in the blogosphere, instant updates about it. So it gives you an opportunity to really get a sense of not only what people are saying, but what they look like when they're saying it.
The question always is, will the defendant testify?
Yeah, that's a great question here. Ordinarily, if you have a self-defense defense, you pretty much got to get up there to tell your story. But here, the jury has already heard his story through this various videos. So the defense might end up saying, no, we don't have to run the risk of putting him on, but that'll be a tough call for them.
Thank you, Jack. Great to see you. Happy 4th.